Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone, and welcome to today's lunch live stream. I hope that everybody is doing good, inshallah, especially on this blessed day of Jumu'ah, blessed day of Friday of the month of Ramadan. And I believe that today is the the final Friday, right? To the final Friday of Ramadan. So Friday will continuously be a blessed day, inshallah. And I guess it's a little bit more special because we are now in the month of Ramadan. So let us see how we can, make full use of our Ramadan, our final Friday with Ramadan, inshallah. Together with our lunch live stream today, with timely reminders, and of course, with all of the other things that you can do alongside today, inshallah. Okay, so inshallah, for today's lunch live stream for timely reminders, we are looking at a very interesting topic, and particularly for today, we are looking at the topic of private versus public. Okay, and of course, for this method, it has got to do with our persona, as a person when we are in private, when we are in public. It has also got to do with, us living with technology, living with social media today, right? Like we have our friends who are watching us live on Facebook and our friends on Instagram. So we have all of these, social platforms that has allowed us to publicize, some things, some matters, some portions of our life, and to some extent, these matters kind of like it affects our worship in a way, because we know that when we do certain things, when it is seen, the impact that it has upon ourselves is different as to the things that we do in private, right? And not just the impact of the things that we do, but also the way we do it, right? So usually when we are in public, or when there are people around, right, we will always want to put a good and positive front, right? It's not wrong, of course. That would be the best way possible, inshallah, to always be in a good state, right? To present our best self. But what we tend to overlook, or what we tend to do, is that when we go private, or when people are no longer around with us, that is when we I guess slack a little bit, because we are not observed, right? We are not observed by people. And this goes back to our topic today with regards to private versus public. Then again, it's easy for some of us, right, or for all of us, myself included, to display our absolute best in public. Okay, and those before us were most active in private. And that is where we reflect on the stories of the companions, the stories of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the stories of our past scholars, how in front of people, they are their best self, but when they are in private, when they are alone, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, they are much more than whatever that they display of themselves in public. Okay, and when the curtains were drawn, and when eyes were busy with sleep, and when attention was shifted away from them, they would take that time to do their best for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on one hand, in public, they gave a good example, a positive example, but when they are in private, when they are alone, right, they want to present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the best. And I think this is where we go back to the whole concept about ihsan, right? أن تعبد الله كأنك تراه فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. So it's mentioned in the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, whereby there was one time Rasulullah ﷺ was approached by an angel, and the angel asked Prophet ﷺ about three things, right? About Islam, about Iman, and about Ihsan. And the third portion about ihsan was when Rasulullah SAW tells us that ihsan is that in which when we perform a certain thing, or we perform a certain worship, we perform as if we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like standing right in front of us. Because as human beings, when we have somebody or something supervising us, naturally we want to present our best self, right? But of course, not everybody is able to grasp that whole idea, because at the end of the day, believing in Allah is also believing in the unseen, and it also adds up onto our faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It also helps us with our sincerity in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and which is why the second portion of ihsan was mentioned, فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَى فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. So, but then again, even if you struggle with the fact that you want to do that first portion of ihsan, right? If you struggle with that, then know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seeing you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you. And knowing that something is watching you or something is seeing you as you perform your worship or as you perform something, it gives you a sense of mindfulness that, hey, although people are not here, although people are not present, although I'm doing things in private, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala witnesses all of these things. So this is where it can help us, inshallah, hopefully, to be much more mindful, especially when we want to do our worship in private, inshallah. Now, if I can share with you a quote, okay, that has been mentioned by our past scholars as well as the past companions, where Dirar ibn Damra says, illustrating the state of one of the Prophet's Allah's companion, which is Ali radiallahu anh, during one of those nights of privacy. So he says, I make Allah my witness that saw him on one night when the stars were out, as he sat in place of worship, having grabbed his beard and behaving like one in agony, as if he'd been stung, and weeping like the bereaved, as he said to himself. So this is where what Ali radiallahu anh said to himself. Okay, he said, "O dunya, deceive someone else. Are you trying to deceive me? Are your hopes on me? This is very far, for I have divorced you 3 times and cannot return to me. Your life is so short and your hazards are easily attained. How little are my preparations? How long is the journey ahead? And what a scary path it is which awaits." So it's interesting how, as we all know, Ali radiallahu anhu was amongst the Khulafa al-Rashidin, right? One of the 4 righteous caliphs that led the Muslims, right, at that point in time. And, although he would constantly put up that best front in front of people, as the leader that he is, but when, a person saw him, right, in the middle of the night worshipping Allah, basically him being in private, he was, crying, right? And there are other narrations which mentions that he cried until his beard got wet. So it was really intense crying, and as you have heard, from the content that I've just shared with you, how he was very much in agony, right? His state was really, really earnestly worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and really wanting to seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wanting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased of him. And this matter is not seen of him in public, but it is only demonstrated when it was done in private, right? And perhaps, some of the things that we can reflect upon for this matter will be that, whether, if it's a good thing that we hide, right, or a bad thing or an evil thing that we hide, whether, it's a secret relationship or worship, or a secret relationship of a sin, which we have, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with ourselves. At the end of the day, sooner or later, at some point, it will be made public, right? And by public, I don't mean unnecessarily that it's going to happen like right now on social media, that kind of thing. But as what has happened to Ali radiallahu anh, right? Something that he has practiced in private, but along the way, another companion or somebody else witnessed that particular matter, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed them to get access to that. But essentially, the bigger public that we are looking at really would be on the Day of Judgment, right? When we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we understand that for the whole concept of the Day of Judgment would be, it's not just going to be Allah there, there's going to be us, there's going to be the angels, and there's going to be all of the other people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ever created. And it is on that judgment day that we'll be judged, right, for our deeds, for our sins, and all of the things that we have done will be made public or will be made seen to everybody. right, to every single person. So although, perhaps there are some things that we do, or there are some things that we keep in private today, that is hidden from everybody else, right? And that is, of course, in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the same time, need to remind ourselves that it's not going to be private forever. At some point it will surface, be it in this life or be in the next. But what's greater than that is, although we switch positions, between being public and being in private, but essentially there is no means for us to actually hide ourselves from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Even if we were to go to the furthest end of the world, even if we were to hide in the darkest of places, even if we are just alone by ourselves, essentially we are not alone. Right? Essentially, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. And I think this is what it brings to 2 points of realization. One point would be to realize that we are not alone, right? We will never be alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be our company. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be by our side, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always be there to comfort us. Although we are physically alone, although we don't have anybody else, although we are just our own, at that particular place. But also another point or another realization is that we become much more mindful, we become much more aware in the things that we want to do. And I understand that sometimes when we interact with certain activities or when we do certain matters, it's difficult for us to not do it. Right? Perhaps it has been out of habit. Perhaps it is something that has been ingrained in us for long, but we know that it's something that is not good, or we know that it is a bad deed, right? But helping us to remind ourselves that, hey, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware, will help us to deal with that, inshallah. Okay, and if I can share with you a reference from Surah Taha verse 7, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى. So Allah says, and if you speak aloud, then indeed He knows the secret and what is even more hidden. So this verse really is beautiful, and I guess it really ties back to our topic today about private versus public. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that even if we were to speak out aloud, that everybody can hear, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also hears. Right? But it is also mentioned, فَإِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is secret and what is even more hidden. So what's the difference between sir and akhfa? So sir is a secret that you keep to yourself that people do not know, right? But who knows? Only yourself. Right, and of course, essentially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also knows. So that is why it's called a secret. And I believe all of us have secrets too, right? I have secrets, you all have secrets. There are things that we tell people, we make known of, and there are things that we keep it to ourselves, and that is totally fine, right? But then again, in this verse, Allah reminds us that for those secrets that we keep away from people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is also aware of that. Right, which is why He mentions فَإِنَّهُ يَعْلَمُ السِّرَّ وَأَخْفَى. But then on the other end of this verse, Allah mentions akhfa, right? What is even more hidden? So the question would be, what is much more hidden than a secret? Right? What is much more secret than a secret, if I should put it that way? So as you all know, secrets are the things that we keep it away from people, that people don't know, that we know and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. But akhfa, something that is even more hidden, is that in which that it's not just people don't know it, but we ourselves don't know. And it is something that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. There are things that you start to learn more about yourself. There are some secrets and realizations that you get to know about yourself along the way. And previously, you wouldn't have thought that you are that kind of person. Right? Previously, you wouldn't have thought that you had, this certain part of you in you. But the more that you learn about yourself, the more that you experience life, the more that you go through a lot of things, you start to see more of yourself and you start to learn more about yourself. Right? And this is where Allah SWT reminds us that even for the things about yourself that you do not know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also knows. And I think that is very, very beautiful to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gotten our back, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware for the things that we are not even aware of ourselves, for that matter. And I guess this is where we go back to the whole concept of why it is really, really important to learn more about ourselves and to learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when we learn more about ourselves, right, on that journey we will start to learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we want to learn more about ourselves, right, on the flip side, when we learn more about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we also learn more about ourselves. So it works both ways. Learning more about the creator helps us to learn more about the creations. Learning more about the creations help us to learn more about the creator. It's just that throughout that learning process, we need to also input or include Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that equation. Okay, and I guess last but not least for today, before we wrap up our timely reminder, perhaps I'd like to share with all of us today a simple dua, right, that we can all practice, especially with regards to today's topic on this private and public life. This whole concept of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has concealed us, right, of our shortcomings, of our flaws. So the things that people see of us, it's very much in the surface, but they don't see our sins, right? They don't see our wrongdoings. They don't see the most vulnerable aspects to our own being. And likewise, like all of you who are watching this lunch live stream right now, right? You all see me in this light, right? But there are many things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has concealed of me, which has brought all of you to a point of perception or to a point of view towards me, and likewise to each and every one of you as well. But truth be told, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not merciful, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were to remove, this conceal, these matters that He has hidden in terms of our flaws and our sins, who knows? Perhaps nobody will want to talk to us, nobody will want to trust us, nobody will want to be in the company with us. So which is why, there are things where when we perform a certain sin or when we perform a certain wrongdoing, it's not right for us to publicize these things, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept it private and hidden for us. And why we are, showing it off to people and being proud, to other people of the sins and of the wrongdoings that we do. Okay. But also on that matter, people will start to have, good thoughts upon us. People will start to have these good perceptions upon us, that perhaps at some point we feel that it's a little bit too much, right? We feel that, hey Allah, they have good thoughts upon me, but I'm not actually that, right? Does it make me a hypocrite? Does it make me, just pretending to be somebody that I'm not? But then again, this is where we need to realize that the perceptions of people can also be positive du'as for us. And this is where we can transform, this feeling of guilt, right? That you feel that you are, putting a different front, in front of other people as a form of dua. And this dua is very, very beautiful. You can mention it in the Arabic, or you can also mention it in your own words or in your own language, inshallah. But briefly, if I can share with you, and this is actually a dua from the pious predecessors, our past scholars as well, one that they have practiced themselves. And the dua goes like this: Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma ij'alni khairan mimma yazunnun waghfir li ma la ya'lamun wa la tu'akhizni bima yaqulun. Okay, let me repeat one more time. There are three parts to it. Okay, the first part, Allahumma ij'alni khairan mimma yazunnun. And then the second one, waghfir li ma la ya'lamun. And then the third one, wala tu'akhizni bima yaqulun. Alright, so what it means here is that, oh Allah, okay, so if memorizing the Arabic might be something that is a little bit difficult for you, then maybe learning more about the meanings to it will help you better. So it means, oh Allah. Okay, there are three parts, right? Part number one, oh Allah, make me better than what they think of me. So somebody thinks of a certain way towards you, and then maybe you're not that, but it's a good thought, right? But we ask Allah, Ya Allah, whatever good that people think of me, please help me to be better than that. Please help me to be better than what they think of me. Okay, so that's the first part. The second one, and the second part is, oh Allah, forgive me for the things that they don't know about me. Okay, and this goes back to the whole concept of us feeling bad because people don't really know us. They have good thoughts upon us, but we're actually not the things that they mention, or maybe it's not even close to whatever that they think of us, right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa taala, Ya Allah, forgive me for not being that good person that other people have this perception towards me, right? In a way that, of course, at the end of the day, we own up, right, to our mistakes, we own up to our flaws and our faults, inshallah. And the last part, وَلَا تُؤَاخِذْنِي بِمَا يَقُولُونَ, and do not hold me responsible for what they say about me. Okay, so three parts to it. One, Ya Allah, please make me better than what they think of me. Ya Allah, please forgive me for not being the person that they think who I am. And Ya Allah, please do not hold me accountable, or please do not hold me responsible for what they say about me. So, inshallah, these are some of the things that we can practice as we continue to live life both publicly and privately. But at the end of the day, we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with us. At the end of the day, no matter what kind of perception that people have towards us, the greater thing that we are striving for is the perception of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody can have good thoughts upon us. Everybody can see us as a good person. But at the end of the day, what's more important to me is that I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to think good about me. Because there is no value in everybody liking me. Everybody looks up on me, for example. Everybody thinks that I'm good, but I'm not good in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so do everything for Allah, inshallah. Intend everything for Allah. Hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have good perceptions towards us, and may we continue to strive, inshallah, in these final days and final nights of Ramadan. Okay, so that is all for today's lunch live stream. I know that I have overshot a little bit, but thank you so much, everybody, for still joining me today for today's lunch live stream, inshallah. I hope that it has benefited us, and all good things come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and every single reminder, every single thing that we do will only bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. Okay, so I just want to share, inshallah, tomorrow there'll be no lunch live stream. The next one will be continuing on Sunday. So inshallah, it will be with another asatiza, inshallah. But for tomorrow, since there'll be no lunch live stream, tomorrow there'll be the soulful supplements with Ustaz Amin on the topic of from the womb to the tomb. Okay, so basically for that topic, inshallah, Ustaz will be sharing more about, when we talk about from the womb to the tomb, womb meaning the beginning of life, and then the tomb will be the end of life, right? When we enter the grave, inshallah. So if I can just briefly share what he will be covering, would be what is the purpose for the fact that we are still alive. How can we exert the final days of Ramadan despite the fatigue at the end of this Ramadan journey? What will be the best ways to take the chance of life and make it meaningful? And last one would be death is inevitable. So how can we best reflect on the fact that many have passed on before us? Okay, so that is all for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for your kindest comments, for your likes, for your shares, for your hearts, and I hope to see you again, inshallah, hopefully, if I have the time to join you for the upcoming lunch live streams, inshallah. Okay, so take care, everybody. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.